Evan Roberts, the young man who shook a nation. There are moments in history when God chooses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. One such person was a young coal miner from Wales named Evan Roberts, born in 1878 in the small village of Lawr, Wales. Evan Roberts was not a famous preacher. He was not a wealthy man. He was not a bishop. He was not a theologian known around the world. He was simply a young man whose heart burned for God. From a very young age, Evan developed a deep hunger for prayer, while other young men spent their evenings pursuing entertainment. Evan often spent long hours seeking God. He worked in the coal mines, living the difficult life of a laborer. But something greater was stirring inside him. For years, he prayed one simple prayer: Lord, bend me, not bless me, not promote me, not make me famous, but bend me, break my woe, shape me for your purpose. And God answered. In 1904. After years of prayer and spiritual preparation, Evan Roberts experienced a powerful encounter with God. He later testified that the Spirit of God overwhelmed him with an intense burden for the salvation of souls. Night after night, he prayed. Night after night, he wept. Night after night, he believed that God was about to visit Wales. And then it happened. What became known as the Welsh Revival exploded across the nation. Churches filled beyond capacity. Prayer meetings lasted all night. People traveled for miles simply to experience the presence of God. There were no famous worship teams. No social media campaigns. No advertising. No sophisticated programs. Just hungry hearts and the power of the Holy Spirit. The revival spread like wildfire. Miners laid down their sinful habits. Drunkards became sober. Families were restored. Criminals surrendered themselves to authorities. Businesses changed. Communities changed. Entire towns changed. The impact was so dramatic that even newspapers around the world reported on the revival. Within a short period, over 100,000 people were brought into the churches of Wales. Many historians consider it one of the greatest revivals in modern Christian history. But behind the crowds was a young man carrying a tremendous spiritual burden. Revival is glorious. But revival also comes at a cost. As the movement grew, the pressures upon Evan Roberts increased. The expectations of people became overwhelming. The emotional and spiritual strain became intense. Eventually, the young revival leader withdrew from public ministry. Many critics wondered what had happened. Some said he had disappeared. Others claimed the revival had ended too soon. Yet those who understood the weight he carried knew that he had given everything. Everything. The man who had cried for revival had poured out his strength, his health, and his youth for the sake of God's work. For much of his later life, Evan Roberts lived quietly. Far from the spotlight. Far from the crowds. Far from the headlines. But his influence never disappeared. The fire that ignited in Wales crossed oceans and continents. Many revival movements that followed traced their inspiration back to the Welsh Revival. Its impact reached missionaries, pastors, evangelists, and prayer movements around the world. Evan Roberts died in 1951, yet more than a century later, his story still speaks. His life reminds us that God is not looking for celebrities. He is looking for surrendered hearts. The greatest lesson of Evan Roberts is not the size of the crowds he gathered. It is the depth of the prayer life he cultivated. History remembers the revival, but heaven remembers the prayers. The young miner who asked God to bend him became the instrument through which a nation was awakened. And perhaps today, in a world desperately searching for hope, God is still looking for men and women willing to pray the same dangerous prayer: Lord, bend me. Because every revival begins when someone is willing to surrender everything. And when God finds such a person, history can change forever. Lord, Bend Us. The Welsh Revival 1904-1905, Evan Roberts 1878-1951 revival begins with surrender.